Hey guys, today's story is going to be yet another story from the OP that wrote the pony story. Okay, so before you ask, I have no idea what's up with the men in my family, and animal companions either. Hi again! Last week I wrote about Snake Eyes the pony, and was very pleased by his resulting popularity, because I always wanted him to live on in more hearts than just mine. Now, that dream has been achieved. My second story wasn't as popular, but those of you who read both have really helped me come to terms with the reality that my brother treaded the lines of emotional abuse far more than just being a bad DM. And writing these stories has brought on a lot of catharsis for me, so I'm going to continue posting as many stories as I can remember, until I finally run out of content, or I am accused of making it all up, whichever comes first. I can assure you, though, that all these accounts are true, and up until 2018, the RPG side of my life had just been one big horror story. So, let's get on with the story. I figured you guys are all exhausted from hating my brother so much, so we'll take a break from him and talk about my dad. So, my dad's been playing since the 80s, and is completely unwilling to adapt, which is why I grew up playing 2E until I was 20. He's a much better DM than my brother, but not by the largest margin. To put it like this, he's much more inclined to make the game fun, knows when it's okay to be looser with the rules, and isn't just mean to just upset or punish players like my brother is. However, I would say that he's limited with his creativity, which caused him to develop a very bad knack for railroading, which, oh boy, is my next story going to be covering that. Anyway, I don't fault him too much for his lower creativity, because some people are just weaker in that aspect. His best friend growing up was one of those mega DMs who built a whole world, and my dad really admired him, but couldn't replicate it himself. Some people just don't have that spark in them, and that's okay. What is not okay, however, is my dad's sick sense of humor. See, he's stubborn, and it contributes horribly to his railroading, but my dad would also just do awful things, because he thinks he's a lot funnier than he actually is. He also really enjoys putting players in uncomfortable situations, with a short example being that once in a previous game, the party was split, and my cousin had to mercy kill an NPC who was maimed beyond repair from an Iron Maiden. And my dad just decided that the entire party teleported across the whole dungeon just so everyone could conveniently walk in on my cousin killing this NPC, so that awkward misunderstandings could ensue. So, to put it simply, my brother will do things to hurt players, while my dad likes to embarrass them. And this story is just an example of my dad's tomfoolery and the lack of limits to what he finds funny. So, for the following story, I was 11, which meant that this was only a few months after the tragedy that was Darth Snake Eyes the pony, and my dad was running Palace of the Silver Princess for me and my cousin. And since there was only the two of us, my dad supplemented our party with some NPCs, but the only relevant one is Dewey the cleric. So, we came across this cave where we heard a lot of growling in the distance, and we followed the sound only to find a scared, starving, and emaciated bear cub chained to the wall. My cousin just wanted to leave it, but I was an 11-year-old girl, and was a huge animal lover, and still am, so my heart broke, and I insisted that we help it. I fed it rations, which it ate, but it was still a bear, so it hadn't stopped showing signs of hostility towards the party. Concerned, I begged Dewey the cleric to do something, because as a godly man, he should know a few things, right? So Dewey sat next to the bear for a couple of rounds, whispering a lot of things, and before we knew it, the bear went from hostile to sweet. And this is where I first learned about animal friendship. I was overjoyed at this, and we set the bear free, and I'm pretty sure that I named it Teacup. And after this, we set off to explore the rest of the dungeon with our new animal companion in tow. It didn't take very long for the problems to start, however. The first one being a pit trap. We tied a rope across the opening of the pit, and it was good enough for our party members. but bears aren't exactly known for their tightrope walking skills, so we had to think of an alternative. And when my character was trying to explain how the party could rig up some sort of pulley system for Teacup to get across the pit using a couple of ropes and a bedroll, a wandering monster was triggered on our side of the hallway, and Teacup barreled forward in a panic and jumped into the pit. The wandering monster was dispatched quickly, and the party looked down into the pit to see if Teacup survived the landing. And, in all honesty, it would have just been better if he just killed the bear right there and then. But no. My dad did not mince words as he described how Teacup's body was contorted and broken from the impact, but still alive and crying out in pain. My dad took special care to illustrate how Teacup's front paws were bent entirely backwards, wrist bones broken through the skin and sticking out where we could all see. Blood was everywhere, of course, and poor Teacup locked eyes with my character almost accusingly, as if asking why I put it in such a situation in the first place. And the whole time, my dad had the biggest, crap-eating grin as he said all of this. My character had to euthanize Teacup with an arrow, as I was the only archer, and I cried at this. My dad joked about this story for years, and he actually thought it was the funniest thing ever. Both the cold-blooded bear homicide and my reaction to it. And in the end, Teacup the bear had an even shorter lifespan than Snake Eyes the pony. Well guys, if you wondered why the brother was so bad to begin with, I think I figured out the mystery. Like father, like son. Both the father and the brother obviously have their own issues, but the father very obviously did not help matters in any real manner. But in any case guys, that's the end of the story. If you liked it and would like to listen to more, make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for future videos. But, as always, have a good one.